Okay, hi everybody. Welcome and thank you for coming tonight for our for the Mason District Council's forum on code compliance. And we do this every year. We've done it for a couple of years in a row. My name is Molly Leffler, and I'm the chair of the council. And we are a volunteer nonprofit bipartisan organization made up of neighborhood, civic, and homeowner association leaders. And our mission is to connect neighborhoods and provide a communication forum and system of support for those who are working to better their community. We are part of a larger organization, the Fairfax Federation of Citizen Associations, and we thank them for coming tonight. Rob Jackson, the president, is here, and thank you for coming. Mark Zetz is here from McLean Citizen Association. Tanya Harding, past Federation president. And basically we are part of the larger organization made up of citizen associations. So, and I don't know who else I can recognize here. We have a couple folks that probably want to.
My name is Raphael Arencibia. I'm from Supervisor Penny Gross's office, and I'm just.
Okay, Supervisor Gross, a representative. She was invited, but she couldn't make it because she had an engagement in Richmond. And tell me your name again.
I'm Mark Levine.
Mark Levine, who is...
I'm running for Congress in the 8th Congressional District to follow Jim Moran along with 10 others, at least. And I'm here to learn about the needs of Mason District. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And the new, we're going to have the panel introduce themselves, but we also want to thank our new commander of Mason District Station, Commander Smith, for coming. He's come just to kind of listen to kind of get an idea of our issues here, and he might have some answers on some parking things later, but thank you for coming, Commander. Let's give him a welcome. And then we want to also thank all of our code compliance folks for coming, and we actually have you set up if you want to come to this table and have a seat. We've got you some waters. And I would like you just to introduce yourselves. We appreciate you coming and your willingness to help talk about our issues. So if you want to just take that mic. I know I can introduce some of you. Jeff Blackford, the Director of Code Compliance. Rob Stalzer, Deputy County Executive.
Good evening.
Susan Epstein, Code Compliance Supervisor. And everybody else, if you would just go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Rachel Barat. I'm supervisor mostly in the Lee District, but I work a little bit in your area as well.
The mic on?
Yeah, can you all just make sure that mic's on? Thanks.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Really? It's on now?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you.
Very close.
Keep that mic. Real close.
Is this better?
No.
Is it on now? Yeah. You turn it.
Is it working?
Yes.
It's just me, sorry.
I told you.
We're real close. Be taller to work these things. I'm Rachel Barat. I work mostly in the Lee District, but I work a little bit in the Mason District as well. Sorry.
I'm Beth here from the County Attorney's Office. Part of what we do in this section that I work in is work on code enforcement issues.
And as I was already introduced, I'm Susan Epstein, and hopefully we can answer all your questions.
I'm Carol McClellan. I'm the operations manager for the Department of Code Compliance, responsible for all the divisions in Fairfax County.
And also, before we start, let me just expand a little bit on my responsibilities. My name's Rob Stalzer. I'm one of the 4 deputy county executives in Fairfax County. I work closely with Department of Code Compliance, but I also work with all the planning and development agencies in the county, planning and zoning, community revitalization, Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, the Park Authority, and Department of Transportation. So presumably some of the issues that we'll hear tonight and we've read about on the survey cross the boundaries of a number of different county agencies. Planning development folks work very closely with other agencies in the county, so we're looking forward to having a dialogue tonight. So thanks for the opportunity to be here.
And thank you for coming. Yeah, you want to?
We've got our police folks in the back, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and start and then just go from there.
Okay, so let's give them a hand and thank them for coming. Okay, also Joanne Phoebe from the Department of the Office of Community Revitalization. Where are you? Hello. Thank you for coming. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, tonight we thank you for helping us start the conversation or continue the conversation. And we may not be able to cover all of everyone's issues this evening, but it's a great start in trying to discuss things to do with the neighborhoods. So we also want to make two quick announcements, and that is that Kay Corey, our delegate, is having her town hall this Saturday in this room at 10:30 till noon. And then MDC is also hosting our education forum, same place, on March 18th. So you're invited to that as well. So let me see. And I want to thank just quickly our event volunteers, Lorena Principe, Lee County Park, Carol Turner, Ravenwood Park, Patrick Dement, Sleepy Hollow Woods, John Clark, Annandale Acres, Jim Mason, Homezone Valley, Sarah Doty, Wilberdale, and a shout out and thank you to Ellie Ashford, who is our instrumental in the Annandale blog getting the word out about our district and its citizens. Thank you, Ellie. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, who is going to give us a brief rundown on how the Department of Code Compliance works. And I think most everybody in here might be savvy with it, but we're going to give just a brief overview.
I heard brief. I heard that. Okay, again, my name is Jeff Blackford. I'm the Director of Code Compliance. A little bit about me, I'm an engineer by trade. I've been with the county for 25 years and worked in other areas of land development. Was appointed as the Director of Code Compliance in 2010 when we established the agency. Can everybody in the back hear me? Are we okay? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. A short presentation. I know we want to get to other things. I want to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about code compliance and what we do and how we like to interface and how we can best interface with you all. You know, what we do and why we do it really boils down to it's all about life safety. And I'm going to show you some pictures of why we're so concerned about life safety. It's about making better communities, education for our communities. Can you okay? And compliance. And we all want to live in a harmonious community, and we understand that. Prior to DCC and Department of Code Compliance, I'm just going to say DCC. You know, the traditional way of enforcing codes was a building department would enforce the building codes, and health department would enforce the health codes, and every department did their own thing. And when they found issues of that required mutual collaboration, they had to kind of informally build some networks to do that. Every agency has their own different priorities, and it became a challenge. And you know, it became a challenge in Fairfax County with some of the boarding house issues that we experienced, and still are to some extent. So the board wanted to find a better way, and created the department, actually the strike team first, and then the Department of Code Compliance in 2010. If you could just go on. Sure. So we found a new approach in 2010, and we consolidated all those code authorities, the zoning ordinance, zoning enforcement, the building code enforcement. We don't issue permits, we just enforce it. Property maintenance code, fire code, some aspects of the health code, noise ordinance, blight program, and yes, even our favorite, the grass ordinance. And we're talking about the grass don't get me going the other direction. Unpermitted work. The building code requires permits and inspections for safety. We have seen some crazy stuff out there, and these pictures are difficult to see. That light and that kind of jury-rigged wire going to the light on the left side, that's right next to a shower. Can you imagine getting your hand on that wet? Okay, that panel, electrical panel, go ahead. was exposed and open. Little fingers could easily get in there and electrocute them. That sign over that sink says it's okay to use the outlet as long as the water is turned off. And someone, I don't know, someone on the right over there wired something wrong because it didn't work right. Certain mechanical violations, and Rachel,
This is a bedroom.
this is a bedroom. We're going to get into a whole series of bedroom issues and why we enforce bedroom occupancy and what you can use for a bedroom. This is obviously a utility room with a heater, and it's packed full of things that could easily combust and cause problems.
It's a homemade humidifier.
And that's a homemade humidifier. Oh my goodness. Okay. Next.
In that cooler?
This in the cooler, yes, sir. You wouldn't believe what we see. This is a kitchen that was kind of shoehorned into a basement, maybe, or
Yeah, and the vent basically vents into the wall instead of directly outside, so whatever toxic gases from the cooking or fumes from cooking is actually being vented right into the insulation.
okay. So that
So the insulation is a filter.
yeah.
Exactly.
And we see a lot of these. There's no permits for these. They're kind of, I'm going to use the word jury rig, and I apologize, but they're jury rigged in there with very little confidence. We've seen fires as a result. People can get electrocuted. You've got toxic gases that are not emitted properly. One more, just kidding. Yeah. This is a bedroom. You know, it's not a hoarding house. It's just a cluttered bedroom. But the problem is, you have to be able to get out. You have to be able to get out of a bedroom in case of a fire. You have to be able to get out through the hall, and you have to be able to get out through a window to the outside. Now, under the current code, that egress window has to be at least 5.7 square feet. Our older houses are grandfathered, so don't worry, okay? Next. This little window, we all have these little windows like this down in our basement. This one's being used for an air conditioner, but there's not a chance that somebody would be able to get through that window in case of a fire.
This is a before picture.
Before picture, okay. Before. Okay, that's the before. The next one.
Paying attention to the back closet. When we open the door, this is what we saw.
Okay, this is the living room, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is the living room, and when we went to do the inspection, that closet, actually, there's a makeshift bed in there.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a gentleman, and the reason we blocked out the right side is because he was present, and there's no reason to reveal who he is, but there is a fellow who's renting that room, that closet. And Molly and I got to talking about minimum square feet for a bedroom. That ain't it. Next. This is actually a basement door, and very commonly you see people renting out their basements, and they create an apartment down there. And then for their own safety and security, they put padlocks and other things on that basement door. Can you imagine waking up at 3 a.m. with a fire, and you can't get out the back, and you go up these stairs to get out, it's full of smoke, and it's padlocked, and you can't get out. It's a fire code, and it's also a property maintenance code violation. Kind of a hoarding house. One of the problems with that patch of light in the back is the front door. Probably wouldn't be able to get out that way. Next. Second dwelling units, a bunch of little pictures of makeshift second dwellings, typically in basements, but very commonly we find them in attics. We've seen them, and many of you have as well, in sheds, garages, carports, and on and on. Zoning violations. You know, zoning violations. Zoning really addresses the use of the property and the accessory structures on it. A fence and that shed are both accessory structures for the use, and they're addressed by the zoning ordinance.
Are they violations, did you say?
Are those?
Were violations?
You know, I couldn't tell you whether they were or not.
They were.
They were, of course they were. That's why we have pictures of them. Real quick case examples, just to kind of show you how all these codes help us work this.
There was a question about whether a shed is illegal. It's probably a setback.
I apologize. There was a question about sheds, and you can have a shed. The building code requires a permit for a shed over 200 square feet, and if it's over 8.5 feet tall, you can have a shed in your backyard or in your side yard. You can't have it in your front yard.
Unless you have 36,000 square feet.
Unless you got 36,000 square feet. There are rules about where the shed can be, how close it can be to your side or to your lot lines, and it's based on the height of the shed and the distance from the lot line. And I'm not going to get into all the rules, but yes, we all have sheds, and it just becomes problems when people put them right up against the lot line. Okay, this is a nice house. Looked nice from the front yard. A few cars parked, and this is how it looked like when we approached it. Next. When we went around the backyard, and this is hard to see, I think, with a light, but there was outside storage, is what we call it. The patio was just covered with, it looks like they emptied out a restaurant and brought all the equipment from a restaurant and piled it up there. There's a shed back there where there was a contractor type work going on, and some business in a residential. That's BIR. Lines and lines of these refrigerators. Sorry, I'm gonna hurry up.
Okay, good. I'm the timekeeper, sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna hurry up. Lots of different kinds of violations. Outside storage. Next one. That's chicken being stored in a refrigerator. I'm not sure whether they're actually taking it to the restaurant or not, but there was a whole series of problems, electrical problems, just keep going. These are property maintenance and fire issues. We find locked doors where people can't get out. We find a lot of wires. This is one last example. This was a house where it was an overcrowding house. And if you go to the next one. When we went down to the basement, we went by the heater system, and the guy in the back there, there's a little makeshift room back there, and somebody was sleeping back there. And I mean, it's like 7 by...
It's 5 by 5.
5 by 5, okay. I don't know how you sleep in there. Okay, so the next time we went back, that's what the back of the house looked like. And we cited them for that and placarded the bedroom, that basement, so he couldn't live there. He moved out. That fire involved the entire basement and the back of this house, and he would never have gotten out of that. Okay, so what did we do last year? We took about 18,000 phone calls. About almost 50% of our work referrals come in from the web right now. You all have continue to find more utility with you using the website and reporting to us that way. Another 2,200 phone calls. These are cases resulting from phone calls, and about 2,000 from other referrals, board offices and other county staff. All total, we did about 7,800 cases, and of those, referred about 825 over to the county attorney for prosecution. That's about 10%. So about 90% of our cases were able to get compliance, and I know we're going to talk about that. About 10%, though, we have to get prosecution, we have to get legal action in order to get compliance. That is way up. 5 to 10 years ago, that was about 50 cases a year. Okay. Some real quick dashboard metrics. The level of phone calls and pretty much the level of our customer service requests or our cases have pretty much stayed the same, 8,800, 9,200, 8,700 cases a year. I won't go through all those. What we've seen a decline in is our grass cases. And if you could go to the next one. As we had at one point 3,000 grass cases at the height of the foreclosure crisis. With those houses turning over now, people start to occupy them, We're seeing the grass violations and cases go down from 3,000 about to 1,400 last year. This is just some of our metrics. Let's see. The one on the far right is the number of first, and a couple of our board metrics that we use is what percentage of first inspections are we accomplishing within 20 days? We set a metric that we want to get out there, unless it's immediate life safety, in which case we want to be out there the next day. We want to, on an average, we want to get out to these first inspections within 20 days. The metric on the left is the average days to complete the first inspection. In 2011, we were at 9.5 days. Last year, we were down to 4 days to complete the first inspection on an average. Go on.
Are you almost finished?
I am.
Okay, thanks.
Making a complaint. If I could get the next one. Okay. Actually, if you could just kind of just hammer through it. Yeah. It's just an automated thing. This is how our cases progress. We when we get a case complaint, just keep going. There's more to it.
Oh, okay.
There you go. We do some initial research. We actually go out and do the inspection. We'll cite it. They have an appeal period that they can appeal our violation. And then if they ultimately bring it into compliance, we'll close it, or we'll just keep working it, or we'll go for a summons. Go ahead. Keep going. One more time. There you go. You can make a complaint through our website. And we've got a handout for you about how to complain to us through our website. And you can also look up case status on our website. That link is in there as well. Molly, I'm going to take 2 more minutes and just explain why we want you to call us. We realize that some of you are not comfortable giving your name. You wouldn't believe how many Mickey and Minnie Mouses we get complaining to us. Or somebody named N-A-N-A-N-A. We're fine with the anonymous complaints. The board wants us to take anonymous complaints. But the problem is, when we get those through the website, sometimes we don't get the information we need to go out and find the violation. Too many people doing something, or something's happening at a certain time. If we don't get those details, then we can't get out there and observe it and start correcting it. So my only request for you tonight is if you want to do an anonymous complaint, do us a favor and call us. So I don't want to tell you all, so we can ask you the questions that we need to know to guarantee our success in observing it. What are you seeing? What's happening? What time? Where? All those things will make us much better investigators on your behalf. Okay? Of course, we'd love to leave your name and number so we can keep up with you, but we get a lot of anonymous complaints. I'm not going to go through any more. Molly, I've exceeded my time, but it gave me the opportunity to show you what we do, why we do it. We don't want people to get hurt, and how it's better for us to communicate with you on the front end, so that we know what you're seeing, and we can take appropriate action to be effective for you. Thank you very much.
Sorry I rushed you, Jeff.
Quite all right.
I don't know, but I felt like a lot of folks in this room kind of are familiar with the process, but I did want to have him do that for you to kind of, just in case some people didn't know the exact process of filing a complaint. Now, let me go ahead and put my, we're already up, good. Okay, so I want to first just say a few things about the neighborhood, the difference between a civic association and an HOA. Because I don't know if everybody knows that, but if you are a civic association, that means your neighborhood, you have a volunteer organization, and you may not have covenants that are rules that you can enforce. And basically civic associations, if somebody leaves junk in their front yard forever, or doesn't cut their grass, we have code compliance that we call. If you're an HOA, you have a rules book typically with bylaws and governing documents, and you can turn to page 7 and it says if you leave something on your balcony that's a bicycle, you're going to get a letter and you're going to get usually 3 letters, and then you'll be called to hearing, follow due process, and then you'll be fined for breaking whatever the rules are. So basically what we're here for tonight is for mostly folks, I think, that are civic associations, basically don't feel like we're getting our rules, enforced. So John has something to say. John, I hope it's quick.
HOAs are in the same position as civic associations in that they can use code enforcement the same as anybody.
Yes, they could use code enforcement, but they do have they have governing documents, and they can fine people. So anyway, I just want to point that out, and basically the rest of us are waiting, at the mercy of code compliance to enforce, and we know you have a tough job. So I'm going to start with just saying that, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to go over the survey results. We had 528 survey takers. It lasted about a month. It was through SurveyMonkey, and these are the results of the survey. I'm going to go through them. There's not an order. I moved the order around for flow, okay? And then we're going to have open dialogue, question and answer with the panel once we go through a little bit of this. But we want to start this conversation, open up new ideas. So first of all, most folks that took the survey were from Mason. Then we asked which type of zoning violations affect you, commercial, residential, or all of the above. And as you can see, most folks picked residential. Some folks picked all of the above, but tonight mainly we're focusing on residential. This is where you found out we weren't statisticians when you answered this question, because we realized our question was written poorly, but we said, have you ever filed a zoning complaint with the Department of Code Compliance? Yes, and then no, we only had no. I had no reason to file a complaint. But by reading the 36 or so pages of comments, we realized that there was a lot of other no's. No, I had reason to, I just never did. No, someone else filed for me. So we broke this out into yeses and no's. And this is just one of the comments. I have not filed any complaints because I've heard so many neighbors say, even though they filed complaints, nothing's ever done. But if you notice here, Code Compliance is telling us they're complaint driven. Half the folks didn't even call to, half the folks took the survey, have not called Code Compliance. So that's kind of an eye-opener. Then we asked if you considered filing a complaint but did not, please identify why. And these are your top ranking things. They could check all that applied. Number 1 rank was, I felt it was a waste of my time to report my concern. I was concerned about retaliation. That actually kind of surprised me. I did not know how to file a complaint. I did not know I had to file a complaint in order for Code Compliance to take action. The problem was solved by someone else or myself. The process of filing was confusing. The problem was resolved by Code Compliance. My concern was not listed online as a violation. So that kind of gives you some input there. If you filed a complaint, was it resolved to your satisfaction? These are just the folks who filed complaints, and 68% said no, it was not filed to their resolved to their satisfaction. This is just one of the, we actually had 69 pages of quotes that we did give to the leadership at Code Compliance so they could read the comments on the survey, because that's what we feel is the most powerful thing, your comments. Every question that could have a comment section had a comment section, and this is kind of typical. I gave up. The county employees seem apathetic and not interested in doing their job. After so many calls and little responsive changes, I gave up. The property is overoccupied, trash strewn with a dozen vehicles, and a classic example of blight, and we are stuck with it, devaluing our homes and ruining our community. And the other quote says, I guess I would feel it's a waste of my time to file a complaint. Too many politicians want to turn a blind eye. This one is a fear of retaliation. I put this in just because it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize this was a biggie here, why people don't call. I don't know investigators left a message that there's no violation in this case. I am tired to file any complaints, and my area is terrible, with trash in yard, parking on grass, 9 persons in a house, 10 cars of one single home parking on both sides, dog barking day and night, party after 10 p.m. Also, I stopped calling police too because I am afraid of revenging. I live in nervous in the house that 20 years ago my neighbors were very nice and support each other. Now, okay, so next, we have zoning code violations impact. These are your top ranking, check all that apply. Property values, 93%. Quality of life, pride in community, sense of community, crime rates, services, police, fireworks, trash, infrastructure, water, sewer, power, schools, quality of education, and then have little or no impact on issues that affect me. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the top 3 property values, quality of life, pride in community? Okay, I'll give you this next quote. It baffles me why our leadership, both at the district and county levels, do not seem to appreciate the impact that their lack of action has on our quality of life and our property values. Repeatedly, they seem to empathize with those who are violating the codes and vilify those of us filing complaints. We have worked hard to get where we are. We should not lose what we have because the county wants to look the other way. I am all for being charitable, but codes and laws were put in place for a reason and need to be followed by all. I just picked quotes that were typified a lot of the quotes. Then we asked, what is your level of concern regarding the following zoning code violations? These were, I just pulled this straight off the survey so the things were cut off, but these I call the big top 3. Multi-occupancy, parking overflows issues, property maintenance. Those are all the big top 3. Then we have outside storage, unpermitted or unfinished construction. We have a beautiful picture of this house over here. Since 2007, that's been in construction. Illegal noise, illegal businesses and run from home. And then these others didn't really rank too high, but trash dumpsters overflowing and hoarding. Then we asked what you, of those that filed, what did you file for? And those are your big top 3 again. Parking, property maintenance, multi-occupancy. And we do see, the others ranking there. But. Okay, then we said, we asked, what's your confidence level in the ability of DCC to enforce the following violations? These are just from those who actually filed complaints. And as you can see, they're not very confident in the orange color there. Not too confident on the multi-occupancy, parking, property maintenance, illegal businesses and homes, or unpermitted construction. Please rate your overall satisfaction with the enforcement of county laws by DCC and ordinances. This one, the entire survey said 39% not satisfied. And then we have, of those who did file complaints, 58% not satisfied. Top reasons. Okay, now these are the top reasons that we wanted to create a dialogue. We're not here to just attack you. We're trying to open up, ideas. But these are things that we read in the survey, and we pulled these things from the survey, just the comments. Lack of follow-up by the DCC officer. Can we see a show of hands of people who've had this happen here? Okay, so what we typically we've heard that the officer will call and report that they sent a violation notice or whatever they did. They called once, never heard again from the person. And we have overcrowded home residents told investigators they were related. That was a huge thing that was read over and over again. Then violator went back to the same behavior after officer checked in compliance or unfounded. And that goes to the next thing. No ability for DCC officers to investigate after hours. So I think a lot of it is that they come when the person's not there, they don't see the violation, then they say not found, unfounded, and leave. Then we have the other top ones. Lack of strong regulations, laws, penalties, and deterrence. Process takes too long. People have had things ongoing for years. And lack of support from the Board of Supervisors. And county and police not proactively enforcing commercial vehicle parking in residential neighborhoods. Now, did I miss anything? Anybody think of any other stuff? Not getting into the nitty-gritty. Okay, and we asked, do you feel that unresolved zoning violations have a negative impact on revitalization? 87% said yes. And this is a quote we thought reflected this. Who's going to invest in neglected neighborhoods? Who's going to invest in a county that can't enforce basic code provisions? Now, here we have, now, this is our section where, so that's your results from the group that we surveyed. And now what we're gonna do is talk about the ideas that came from the survey, and we also have the posters of other ideas that came in through the survey. So basically, we want to reevaluate the way things are going, ask you guys if maybe we could, if it's feasible to, you know, do some of these ideas. So, this is the ranking that came in. I'm gonna have you go ahead and turn the page so I can read it from. So we have it, from top to bottom, ticket and fine violators, increase the amount of follow-up by code compliance investigators so they actively stay in touch with complainants until resolution, enhance the system so that DCC investigators are proactive and encourage code compliance investigator to cite violations when observed, rather than the current solely complaint-driven system. Number 4, have code compliance officers check identification to prove family relations to address overcrowding. Number 5, add weekend and late night hours for code compliance investigators, flex time. Add education/community outreach component to increase awareness of zoning codes. Like, I know Prince William County does a neighborhood leaders group, and they help the neighborhoods try to, you know, help community leaders. And create a citizens auxiliary task force in each district to aid DCC. That one, some people thought it was going to be a vigilante team, so we did see some comments on that, but I do know that, you know, with Mason District Council, we did in our neighborhood park lawn, did the neighbor to neighbor program, and I know Broyhill Press does it, and so it's just a neighborly letter, mainly dealing with the code, outside storage, stuff like that, property maintenance only. And they did this program in Groveton, and it was very successful. Beth?
I just want to say that we've instituted the Neighbor to Neighbor program in Edsel Park, and probably in the last 6 months, I've put out 10 to 15 letters, and only one of those people had to be turned in.
Oh, that's really quite good. Okay.
We only had to put one complaint into code compliance. Everyone else did, you know, comply with the letter.
Oh, that's really good news. Great.
And
I know,
unfortunately, the one we turned in was a big problem that took a very long time to resolve.
but that's still a good
Yeah,
news.
so it does work.
And maybe you could, you know, send your letter to the Mason District Council. They
As a
can
model?
put it online for a model for the rest of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, so we do have the step-by-step way you can do the neighbor-to-neighbor program. You send a neighborhood letter in your newsletter. You've got to have a team that wants to do it. But our team went with Neighborhood Watch and just kind of checked off things. But and that's how we do it. We tell you how to do it on our website, masondistrict.org. And it's not really, you know, a county program. It's just us trying to do something. So let's see. Okay, wait. And the final one is consider incentive pay or hours. Or bonus for outstanding code compliance investigators or commissions. So now, I've colored these things so we can talk about them, and I do want to also really encourage audience participation. But so what I did is I broke it down with what I thought would be easier to talk about are the ones in black we'll talk about first. Then we're going to talk about the orange, because I think those are going to need the county attorney probably to tell us legal stuff or whatever. And then number 3 is if we have time to talk about the outreach, but we, thought perhaps the Office of Revitalization could get involved with that part of things. So that's why we invited them tonight, but basically it's all ideas, just trying to look at things a new way, because really I think that people are concerned about the physical condition around here, mainly, one of the many issues. So the first thing we'll talk about is increase the amount of follow-up by code compliance investigators. Can you do the next slide for me?
Sure.
Each time we ask this, we're going to say, what's the current procedure? And then we'll say, can we improve this by maybe increasing the hours? So I'm going to ask maybe Susan on this one. What's your current procedure for the code compliance or whoever wants to answer, to follow up with the complainant? Is there a current procedure?
Our process, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Okay, so our process is once we receive a complaint, the investigator is supposed to contact the complainant, try to get more details about their complaint in case there's information missing from the complaint that's received. So once the investigator has received the complaint, contacted the complainant, sometimes there's additional questions they may be asking. How many people live at the house, what hours are the best time to observe the activity, maybe asking about the number of cars they see and more specific information than that. Then the investigator will go out and conduct the investigation. If there is no violation observed, they will then close out their case, update the complainant, and then that's the end of it. However, if a violation is observed, then our investigator will send out a notice of violation to the owner, and it gives them a certain amount of time to clear the violation. If it then gets cleared, then the case is closed out and we will update the complainant. Another scenario would be a notice of a violation is observed, and then the owner or the tenant chooses not to comply. And so once that occurs, then we have to forward over to the county attorney's office, and it may take a while from that part to get resolution. If someone wants to respond quickly once they receive paperwork from the county attorney's office, then it may go quicker than not. But throughout this process, our investigators will also call in between the beginning and the end, and we encourage the complainants to call back with additional information. And what happens a lot also is we go out there, we see some stuff, we still have questions, we're going to call back and try to get some more details. So we try to have an open communication throughout the process, and that's encouraged throughout the entire agency to make sure, because a big part of this is communication with the complainant. It's also communication with the tenant or the owner to try to get resolution as quickly as possible.
I just want to add one thing. On our website, all of our data entry is done through a system that can be viewed on our website. So once a notice of violation gets sent out, that will be uploaded onto that as well. So basically the entire process you can view online as well to see if a notice has gone out, and if in fact it goes to litigation, it will notify that same site online as well. So even if you don't hear from us, you can check online and find out the same information right by our website.
Okay, so does anyone have a comment on that?
Yes, I'm wondering why so many times a complaint is filed and it's returned as no finding or in compliance, when we don't see that at all. We see one long continuing violation, sometimes lasting for years. When people come back and file another complaint, they get the same thing. Rachel, as you know, we have properties that have up to 8 such occurrences, and they're one continuous violation. Yet it gets reported by code compliance over and over again as in compliance or no finding. I think a big problem there is the fact that the inspectors don't show up when the evidence is there, that people out of commercial activities take their equipment, their men and everything, and they leave early in the morning. Your hours are 7:30 to 4:30. When you leave, then they bring everything back. So of course it wouldn't be found. There is not enough, there is no staffing, regular staffing after hours. There's not even a plan to do that. There's not a phone number to call. Now that's one example.
Let's get into the next one.
That's one example of why we have a problem with your procedures. Rachel, as you know, I've asked you about your procedures, and I was stonewalled on that. I asked several times, and I get my request turned into a FOIA. Well, we'll talk about that later. But my question is, why does this come back? What is your understanding of why this comes back again and again as in compliance and no finding?
I might start, some of the complaints that we get are anonymous. We don't have someone to call back, or we might not have all the information we need. If I can't be more direct to say that what you can do to help us is to be as detailed as you can in the complaint when we'll find these things. Sometimes we have a very vague complaint and we don't quite understand what it is that you're seeing out in the field. And sometimes when we call the complainants, we have a hard time getting in touch with them. So we may just not know what you're seeing. If you could be as specific as you can when you're seeing things, what you're seeing, that would really help us out as well.
And I'm also going to add that our staff, we have core hours that we work. However, we do understand that activity does not take place necessarily during the middle of the day. And our investigators do come to work, and they will get out there very early in the morning, and they'll get out there late at night also. And they will be there on weekends, and we have a couple special people that work a lot of interesting type cases on the weekends and late at night also. So core hours may be during the middle of the day. However, we do have people that go out there. Our job is to be out there when the complaint is taking place. So what helps us is if you're seeing it at a specific time, even if it is something as simple as overcrowding, it helps us to know when are they leaving in the morning and when are they coming back in the evening. Those things are very key because sometimes, we may miss it on one end, but if we try it in the morning and it doesn't work, then we're out there late in the evening too. So we do try to, vary our times to go out there and try to be able to see what's going on.
Okay, question up here?
I was just gonna ask, so if someone is observing, let's say over, like, lots of construction vehicles or something like that, and that they see that at 5:30 in the morning, but for some reason somebody's not coming out there at 5:30 in the morning for whatever reason, is there some reason that a citizen can't take pictures that you can then use as evidence of a code violation? I mean, if you know where the house is and you get a picture, you can date, I mean, yes, everybody
That
will
was
change
an
everything
idea.
with Photoshop,
Somebody
but
asked that, because on Prince William County site, you can upload photos, I think. Did you also find that out?
From the county attorney's office, when we go into court, we present evidence of the violation. If the person who took the pictures was willing to come into court and testify to the authenticity of those pictures, and if we had evidence from our inspector to back up at least certain parts of the violation, that would be an option we would consider. The problem is when the pictures come in and the complainant doesn't have any interest in coming to court because they're afraid of retaliation, or if they wish to remain anonymous, which often happens, or they can't be in court on the Friday when we need them in court, then we can't get the picture in because the picture can't be authenticated by basically the person who took it.
right, I'm almost thinking just for this sort of loop that it sounds like, so that the code enforcers can see, okay, yes, every time we've come out, it's not been there, but obviously it's here, here's the date, here's the time, now we know we were gonna come out there at, 2 o'clock in the morning or something, I don't know. That's what I was thinking, I understand what you're saying, and I can see why some people wouldn't wanna come into court or what have you. But even just giving your office enough information to say, every time we go, we're not catching it, but look, here's some proof that it is, let's see how we can, revisit going back out there and catching these people. It's just a thought.
The photos do help us. I mean, we may not be able to use them in court, but
That's what I mean,
those
yeah.
photos do help us, and when people, we encourage people if they have photos, and some people are very good at sharing photos with us. So, if you do have photos of the commercial vehicles, if there's a business, a landscaping business or something like that, those photos do help us in our investigation. So even if the first time we don't see it, early in the morning, those photos kind of help us zone in on what we're looking for the next time we're out there.
Thank you.
Okay, and I forgot to ask if y'all put your name out and your neighborhood name.
Oh, Sarah Mattingly, and I'm in Lake Barcroft.
Okay, thanks.
Sarah Jody Wilberdale, and I have made complaints, and I would say probably didn't make as many as I've seen, because I'm one of the ones that gave up on some of them. But I have put complaints out. I have put my name out there. I have put my name out there. I've put my times. I've seen things out there, and I've been more than happy to talk, and it comes back incompliant. When there's 10-something cars there are people living in the basement with no egress, I'm positive of, and we have 3 full families in there, not including the random people that pay to sleep in the basements at night. So, we have 3 full families in there, children, everything, plus people that just pay whenever they can to sleep in their basement. And they come back in compliance because no one shows up there at the times I do give them, and no one follows up with me. So people don't follow up.
Yeah, I do think that there is no follow-up from my personal experience, but, so we were wondering if you can, I don't know if you can tell your guys to, I get a message and I've never heard anything back, and then I called months later and they said it was in compliance. The case was closed. I drive by this car dealer every day dealing car off his lot. So I was gonna ask you guys, can you ensure that your folks are calling folks back and actually emailing them? Or like at least doing something, because I don't think, I mean, for me at least, and the others, there's no callback besides at one time. I don't know, but I just wanna, I don't know if that was the thing we read with everybody, so it's not just me. Okay, John, and then we have to go to the next thing, so.
Okay, I have a couple of points. One is, my name is John Birch, I'm from Bel Air. One point is that it seems that there is a problem with identifying when the in-compliance assessment was done. Does the report that you post indicate the time and date of the inspection? I'm asking this.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the one online?
Yeah.
Well, does the report that the inspector gives you include the date and time that he did the inspection?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and is that included in the report that's online?
I believe online it's more vague. I think it's just sort of an overall.
Okay, that seems to be a major issue, because if it is a time-dependent assessment, and we know when the assessment was done, you know, if it was done in, 10 o'clock in the evening, when they're usually in violation, and the inspector found that it didn't satisfy the law, then he would file. But if it did satisfy the law, then he should indicate, what he saw that might be misinterpreted. I mean, that might be a way of helping the inspector communicate with us what is against the law and what's not. I mean, somebody might, I might file a complaint, their house is messy, and that's not against the law, as far as I know. But if they have storage outside and other things that I call messy, then it would be against the law. So if both the report and the complainant are able to communicate through the website, it could be as simple a matter of if the inspector or the office provides an email or a phone message back to the complainant, and that includes the time of the inspection and the basis for which the compliance was found, that they were not violating the obvious issues that were probably the basis of the complaint, then that would at least provide a basis for discussion. Whereas if she's saying they're always violating, and your inspector's saying, they never violated when I looked, and you can't win that battle, because neither of them is specific.
Can you write that down?
If the report has that information in, then anybody can go look at the complaints about that address, I guess it is, online, and see what the issue is.
Is that,
Okay, is that something you can do?
Is that possible? Yeah. I mean, can you do that?
Is there a legal reason not to do it, I guess would be the question of like the date and time of when the actual inspection occurred and what was observed?
A couple points. Look, much of this we can disclose. Certain things we can't and shouldn't disclose, but certainly, and many times I know we put you through the FOIA process when you really want a lot of details. I think we can look at putting additional details about inspection data online. We'll have to vet that through our legal process. But I hear you, and I appreciate the idea. And one last piece, and I realize that I'm hearing that we may not be calling you back as you would have us do. On the website that Rachel mentioned, we also give the inspector's name and his contact number. So if you're not being satisfied by communication with that inspector, then I want you to call the front desk, 324-1300, and ask for his or her supervisor and engage in that dialogue.
And what about photographs? I mean, they do in Prince William, but for you, until somebody, an inspector calls you back, until you get their email address, you can't send photos. But if there's something that's really, is that possible to put,
We,
Can you upload photos with a complaint you file online or
Yeah.
after a call? It should be it should be a technical fix, right?
well, of course, and, listen, I don't know whether our website has a mechanism to enable that, but we also get complaints via email. And I know you can attach digital
And that's what Susan's referring to.
information to
right?
emails, and you can call us and say, I would like to email you some documentation or some evidence, and can I send that to, who do I send that to? And by all means, talk to our
but
friend
that's
Steph.
after an inspector's assigned.
We will look at the website and see
Okay.
that uploading photos, so you don't have to have a point of contact. You
Right.
can do it. Now, whether in fact they'll be used or we can use them,
That's-
but we'll have them, and we can make that determination.
And I think what that goes to also is that a lot of us need to do this after hours, after work.
Yeah,
We
we're-
can't do it during the day. 'Cause
I just want to tell you that I'm driving down the street seeing 500 zoning violations every day, and I've never even gotten on the computer, I have to say, I just call the number, and then I finally stop calling. Okay, we do have Roy Hill Crest over here.
Hi, David Holland, first of all, thank you for what you do for serving. I know it's a really hard job.
Yes, thank you.
And listening to people, it seems like your main challenge is connecting these observations, right? Because you have multiple people from multiple angles at multiple times. So I guess, what is your method that you use, or can you disclose that? Make those
Well, the first thing we look at, the complaint that we receive, if you file online, there's a box or boxes about when is the best time to observe the violations. So whatever days of the week you're seeing it, whatever time, whether it's day or night, if you have a real specific time, like someone is that regular. I know with things like businesses and things like that, it's hit or miss. And unless we get there on this, or like repairing a car, sometimes things like that are very hit or miss. And some of that's really dependent on the weather. Whether someone's gonna be outside repairing the car, or a contractor's office and shop. If the weather's bad, that's the perfect time. If it's raining, people are not out cutting the grass, that's the perfect time for an inspector to come by someone's house. So when you are either filing online or once the investigator calls you, make sure to let them know when is the best time and days to observe whatever it is you're seeing. And we do understand, especially like with the overcrowding type of complaints, some people get up really, really early to go to work and they don't come back till the evening. So you're there, you're our eyes and ears in the community, and what you see is going to be the most help for us. And then once our investigators are out there, and they may think that there's something going on, but they don't have the evidence, they can't make contact, or they don't have the photos, they'll call you back and say, I kind of think something's going on, but could you be more specific on the time? Or if it's overcrowding, maybe, how many males, how many females, that kind of thing, to help us out. So once again, it's the back and forth that we need that helps us out. And, our investigators, they've been advised to call you to get more details, but please feel free to also call the investigator back once you find out more information, because sometimes, literally, we will be on something for weeks on end, and we'll get that call, and then we run out there and we catch it. And when we catch it, we're pretty pleased, because some of these things are difficult to catch. So, if you see something and we can get there, we're going to try to get there. And some of these investigations are not anything that takes place on the outside. Like if you see a yard filled with outdoor storage, or you see a bunch of junk vehicles, all that, those kind of things are really easy for our investigators to see. Things that take place inside the house, or they're mobile, or more difficult, and that's what may take more time.
Okay. Folks, I gotta wrap that one section up for a second here, because I wanna let Commander Smith answer some questions, because I feel like we're taking a lot of his time, and he's coming to visit us. And so, anyway, I can't spend a long time on each subject back and forth, so I do want to, we do want audience participation, but we have like 8 ideas to ask them about. So I'm going to, you're saying to us that your officers already have flex time and they work weekends and evenings. That's the answer to that one question?
Yes, they do.
Okay, they already do that.
Late and weekends.
Okay, now let me, I'm gonna actually go to the parking issues, right? So that in case we have questions on that, can you roll forward a little bit and, let's see. Now, these are the big three that I wanted to discuss the ideas with: parking, property maintenance, and multi-occupancy. Can you roll down one more? Roll down, roll down. We have lots on over multi-occupancy. Back. All right, I'm going to do the parking so that we can do that with Commander Smith here. Now, what we did is we took some parking things and the main issues, because that was a big ranking high on the survey, and we put the main ones, and then we put our ideas next to it. And one of the things that that was the number one ranking thing is the idea of ticketing and fining, because basically, if nobody's being fined for stuff, it drags on for 3 years. We're dragging on now since 2007 on a lot of this stuff, and I know that the laws have to catch up for that incomplete construction. That one is grandfathered in apparently. But regarding parking, we know, I'm going to just educate folks that don't maybe not know, but since a lot of us are hardened into this thing, we've learned the hard way. Parking on the grass, it's Department of Code Compliance. Parking on the street, it's the police. Or residential districts, it's commercial vehicles parked in residential districts, both police and code compliance. Expired tags and out-of-state tags, police. Inoperable vehicles, over 6 is Department of Code Compliance. Under 6, police. Right? Street, if it's on the street, it's the police. If it's in the yard, it's code compliance. Let me just tell you that I drove around and I actually found several cars in yards. Didn't have to go far. Don't have time to write addresses down, but let me tell you what. Every day I drive by some address on Braddock Road, I called several times. They told me cars in the yard, on the side yard, are okay. Are they okay to be sitting in the side yard? That's legal?
Yes, as long as the car is properly licensed and tagged, there's no regulations about that. The only regulation deals with cars in the R1 through R4 district, which is primarily where everyone in this room lives, and those are single-family homes. The only restrictions are in the R1 through the R4, they cannot be parked in the front yard on lots that are under 36,000 square feet. There are no regulations about parking in the side yard or the rear yard. Now, if we have cars that are not properly licensed and tagged, then that's a different issue, and we can look into that. But if you have a legally licensed car, it can be in the side or the rear yard.
Can I just, on your regulations online, it says vehicles cannot park on lawns. So I think there might be an issue with that because lawns can include side yards and rear yards.
I will say we are in the process of revamping our website, so things like that should be cleared up.
Causes a lot of confusion.
Well, then what is the governing body that we need to talk to get this changed, right? Right? Am I right? We don't want people parking in the backyard, and we don't want a junkyard every time we drive down the street, and this was like 5 seconds from the house over here. Landis Street, if you want to take a drive down. Okay, so what do we have to do to get ticketed? Can we get ticketed? Am I wrong here, or we are all the same?
It looks terrible.
Yeah, okay, so what do we need to do to, who do we need to lobby or ask about the first thing we'll talk about is the cars in the backyard and the side yard.
Yeah, I mean,
How can we get this person ticketed? What can we do to get a law changed? What do we need to do?
The general process for getting zoning regulations changed in Fairfax County is there's a work program, a zoning ordinance work program, and typically these matters are prioritized from priority 1 to I believe priority 3, and priority 1 are the ones that they're working on immediately are the top concerns, and usually those issues are brought forward through the board member's office, and then those are put on the work program. So that's the main way right now. If you want there to be a change, that's the best way to go about it. I don't think it's the only way, but that's the primary way.
Okay, so that was a board matter that they would put forward? Okay, we're just making notes. Now, we are asking, while the police are here, we got a commercial vehicle issues about, I guess there's only one officer to ticket the parking problems that we're having. I know you recently did a forum with Penny Gross in the neighborhood in the weekend thing. So maybe you can come speak to that a little bit. Do you have a question, Sarah?
I have a question. Okay, so if you have Maryland tags, parked in a driveway, whose responsibility is that one?
Only ask the police officer, they can just have the
Yeah.
commander to come up and give his talk and then we'll
Yeah,
ask questions
Please
like that.
come up.
Yeah, come on up.
Okay, so we probably have a few questions for the Commander Smith or whoever wants to help on these, because there's a lot of Maryland tags going on, and there's a lot of commercial vehicle parking on the street, and so we just want some clarity on that, because I think parking was a big pull of the concerns here.
Because as a,
Here, you can take them. Who wants?
hey Molly?
Yeah, yeah.
So I used to live in the city of Alexandria, and if you parked on anywhere in the city of Alexandria and you had a tag and you were there after a certain amount of days with your Maryland tag, you got ticketed. And I know because my boyfriend was from Maryland, found my husband, and he got a ticket because he was at my house all the time. So I don't, and he didn't even live there. And these people actually live in these places. Why can't we do the same things here in Fairfax County that City of Alexandria does? I mean, I don't understand why that can't be happening here as well. It's illegal.
Going to their home, and my students have told me they get food stamps from Maryland and Virginia. That's why they have the Virginia address but the Maryland tag.
Well, they have the Maryland tags also because they're allowed, Maryland will enforce that you can be illegal and get license plates and driver's license in Maryland. So that's why a lot of the neighbors have.
So the question is, if there's a Maryland tag for a long time sitting and somebody calls you, but it's not proactive enforcement, or can you tell us a little bit about the parking of, first talk about the out-of-state plates, right?
You have 30 days upon moving to the Commonwealth of Virginia. You have 30 days to obtain a Virginia license plate, Virginia inspection sticker. The difficulty is proving that person resides in Virginia for 30 days. Are they here during the day? Are they working here? Or can we prove that they stayed in a residence for 30 days straight? That's the issue.
So if they go home on a weekend, it starts another 30 days.
Exactly.
Their cars are here every single day.
Who is the governing body that we need
The
to
officer has to go to court, swear before the judge. I've seen that car in Virginia, parked in the same spot for the last 30 days.
Same spot?
There's a lot of the complaints that we get as far as in reference to cars for people not registering. A lot of them, and it's traditionally been for tax evasion. I mean, there's several different reasons. I mean, you'll have people from the military that, there are specific exemptions within the state code that if you're active duty military, you don't have to register your car in the state if you live here. There are always things like that. But most frequently, it's tax evasion because, personal property tax. And people don't want to pay that personal property tax on their vehicles. But there actually is a link that on the county website, and I apologize I don't have it right here, but I've seen it where you can go on there, you can enter the information the same way. There's people that follow up on those long-term cases like that. But to answer your questions about the number of parking enforcement officers as far as, what we have, all of the 128 officers that we have assigned to Mason District Station can write parking tickets. They do that. We have one person assigned specifically at Mason District Station that is not a quote-unquote police officer, but a special police officer has powers, and their primary duty is to write parking tickets. Last year, that person wrote 4,000 tickets within the Mason District. So, in addition to that, we have parking enforcement that works out of where Lieutenant Brennan's previous assignment was as Assistant Commander of Traffic Division that do nothing but write parking tickets, and they are under the same premise as that. They wrote 2,700 tickets in Mason District last year. So between those two entities were 6,000 parking tickets in Mason District Station. So so it's not one person; it's all police officers. So, and the bottom line is this. I mean, and that's why I kind of brought my handout up. But we start talking, and I know a lot of the issues are the commercial vehicles parked in residential areas. I'll be honest with you, unless you're dealing with it every day, you're that man at the Mason District Station or the Fair Oaks District Station that knows the ins and outs of that law, and it's confusing. What by statute, what by definition is a commercial vehicle? I can look at something and go, oh, that to me looks like a commercial vehicle. Then I sit here and I pull out my handout with the pictures on it, and I compare it, and I look at it, and I go, okay, it is, it isn't. it is a little bit confusing, but, here's just different examples and that we give to the police officers, and, I could provide this to you. And it could provide a little bit of clarity for some of what you're seeing is what you think and you define as a commercial vehicle may not necessarily be by the code section. So that could be some of the issues, but, the best thing I can tell you when you have that commercial vehicle, when you have the, expired tags, when you have the handicap violation, when you have the, park too far away from the curb, when you have somebody blocking your driveway, it's the 691-2131 number. And, obviously it's not the highest priority complaint, but it is put in that pending queue and it will be dealt with and someone will be dispatched. If it's during the day when our parking enforcement officer is working, it'll be him. But if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it'll be one of the other 11 to 12 officers, to 15 officers that are working. So, I mean, we can address those issues when we see them, or when we get called.
We have 3 questions.
Your police officers are writing tickets only for cars on the street. They're not writing tickets for cars in driveways.
Right,
That's code compliant.
right, yes, sir. We have no authority to go on private property.
Correct.
That
Right.
includes streets. If VDOT does not maintain the street, if it's not assigned a route number by the state of Virginia, we have no authority to enforce on that street.
So can code compliance write the tickets for Maryland tags when you go to residents? So if it has Maryland tags, it's parked there, if I can go by, it's just a repairs? Is that what I'm getting?
Question?
Let me go in order. Yeah, I know.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
Bob's been waiting, I'm sorry. Okay, so I saw Bob, then Beth, then the purple, lady in purple, and the guy in the back. Now you.
I'm Bob Noe from Broyhill Crest. I think it's called Project Target, and that's personal property avoidance. And those take a long, long, long time, but they're ultimately solved. Because those people have to go to the state that's registered the vehicle and communicate with that state. So a year and a half is a quick time to get a turnaround on a vehicle that's parked with out-of-state tags. And again, all the time, some of the time it is a military person. The diplomats usually have diplomatic tags, and you can tell those. But it's hard to tell that it's a military person because you no longer have the Fairfax County sticker. Military used to get the sticker free. Sticker was in the windshield. That was a tip-off that you're registered in your home state.
Okay, thanks. Beth?
I know that, in 2010 that you redid the code compliance because you saw that there were issues with the health department and everything lining up. But I still see a problem with the parking issue. I reported a box truck that was parked in a driveway. The investigator, the code compliance investigator went out, cited the box truck, they moved it to the street. So I called back. The investigator went out, said, now you have to call the police. And I'm sorry, but that really ticked me off, that now it's back on me, and it's like a ping pong. So then I call the police, then the police ticket him. Then he goes back in the driveway, then I have to call code compliance. It really ticks you off.
Always learn the game.
Yeah, and they know what they're doing. And it's the same, if you go through your database, it's the same houses over and over and over again.
I don't have an answer for you, but if I were you, I'd be ticked off as well, and we'll look at it. I mean, that shouldn't happen that way. I understand why it does. We'll look at it. I don't know what the resolution might be, but we will look at it.
Okay, so we'll add that to your list of to-do. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I just wondered, is there a limit to the amount of private cars being parked in front of a single residence? We have one house that has no less than 6 ever, and as many as 11 at one house.
Drive down Annandale Road every night. Every night.
I mean, they're tagged and everything, and they aren't commercial, but it looks like a Super Bowl party every day.
Single family.
No, there's
no, but.
There's no limit, so there's nothing you can do.
As long as the cars are legally registered and parked.
And that'll be the next subject.
Okay.
Overcrowding is our next subject. One final question, then we're,
I have
2
a
more.
question for you all. All right, you find a car on the street, you give it a ticket. And then what happens to the process after that car is ticketed? What is the owner of that car does he automatically get a fine, or is it a warning sometimes? Or if he does get a fine, the ticket, he has to pay it, then he pays it, and then what happens after it's paid? Is that, and then this?
They can either do one of two things. They can either pay the fine, or they can dispute it, and they'll put it on the officer's next court date, and go in front of a judge as far as that goes.
Or they
One
ignore
of
it.
two choices.
Or they ignore it.
Or they can ignore it.
Okay, next gentleman.
Frank Berry, Park. We're having major problems on Lincoln Avenue and Evangeline Lane.
Yep.
I mean, super major. I've been living there since 1968, and we never had any problems until about maybe 2.5 years ago. And naturally, the first thing I did 2.5 years ago was write Penny a letter, and all of our neighbors called the police constantly, and I mean, your office knows it. The police actually get agitated with us for calling. They want to know, honestly, how much tread is left on the tire of the car. I mean, it's to that degree almost. One day I actually said to them, look, if you do your job, I wouldn't be calling. Now, I start out with that preface, and that we don't feel that their heart is in it. Now, I know that your police officer that's dedicated is a genuine guy. I've met him and talked to him, but he said to me on Lincoln Avenue, I can't give them a ticket, and we have ditches, we don't have sidewalks and so forth. He said, I can't give them a ticket if the tires, 2 of the tires are off of the pavement.
You can't give them a ticket if there are 2 tires on the pavement.
They got 4 wheels
on the side of the road.
Give them a
Say the
ticket
same thing.
if
all 4 are off.
2 of the tires are off of the pavement. And the roadway is 19 feet wide, Lincoln Avenue. If it's 19 feet wide, I've now researched all the codes, Fairfax County codes, VDOT codes, and everything, and they show the pictures of the school buses going by. This is a bus route. And everything, which tells me they should get a ticket automatically because they're parked on a 19-foot wide roadway. And they're impeding traffic, and it's a safety hazard, and there are no sidewalks. And the stuff I read online on VDOT's line was that 10% of the people that walk, that take trips, are walking. And as a result, that means they're walking on Lincoln Avenue, which puts them in harm's way. So I don't understand that for 40 years, we had no problem. And I'm sure we didn't have a problem because the police were giving them tickets. As soon as they realized they didn't have to do anything because the police weren't going to give a ticket, then they try their hand, then the next one says, wow, he didn't get a ticket. And the next one comes, the next one comes, the next thing you know, on our street with only 9 houses on it, we had 23 cars parking on it. The ditches that used to be mowed and actually have sprinklers in one of them next door to 2 doors down from us, as an example, it's a total mud hole. All of the ditches, and I brought 37 pictures over.
I think that's good. We appreciate your concern, but we need to keep moving forward.
But we just need.
Maybe you could have a separate meeting with that.
Is there an answer?
Is there an answer?
People won't park there.
I appreciate what you're saying. Not to make excuses, I've been here 3 weeks. I'd like to come down and personally look. I'd have to look at what you're.
I'd love it.
So I'll give you my card before we leave here.
Okay.
Is that a rule? If you have 2 tires off the,
Again, I'll have to look at the roadway and see. I can't.
no rule,
Yeah.
you know.
There, you
Well,
can't. Sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing I wanted to address real quickly. I said I hinted you sounded like you were getting some attitude from the police, or in reference to wanting to know some details. You talk about on the phone when you're calling the police.
Yeah.
Okay. one thing too, I want you to understand too, is you're calling the police, you're calling 691-2131 non-emergency number, you're calling 911, you're calling the Department of Public Safety Communications, okay? So you're not calling the quote-unquote police. You're calling another agency within the county that dispatches all emergency services. So if you're having problems with those folks on the phone, I would start with their supervisors within that entity. But at the end of the day, if you request an officer and you want an officer and you're adamant about seeing an officer, you're going to get an officer because that's the department's policy.
Okay, I need to move forward because it's almost 9 o'clock. Thank you, officer. Okay, thank you everybody for the questions, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back a couple slides. The next.
Can I make a comment to the police
Yeah.
department? A compliment, gentlemen. I own a property on Sleepy on Whispering Lane. I've owned it for 20 years, and for the last maybe 3 years, we probably call you guys about twice a month, 12 inches from the curb, whichever. You have responded every single time within 8 hours, and I want to thank you.
Okay, and I want to remind everybody, they have CAC meetings, I think it's every Tuesday, or once a month.
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday of the month. Okay, now, I have to hurry along because it's 9 o'clock here, and I want to get to the biggie, which is the overcrowding, multi-occupancy question. And because really, I think that's what a lot of people are here. Can I see a show of hands who's concerned about overcrowding? And our schools are overcrowded, our cars are on every street. We, we're feeling very frustrated as it basically is an understatement. So we want to ask you guys the check ID question, which was number 4 on the survey, ranked number 4. Have you guys check IDs? Could you please expand on that? Why you're? What happens is people come, they say they're related, they leave, and there's like 3 satellite dishes out front. We know they're not having 3 satellite dishes, and they're all related. Really interesting. And 20 cars. So you know the deal. We'd like to know why you can't check IDs. Thank you.
Well, I'm up here just struggling a little bit because I'm not exactly sure what particular situation you're talking about, but I'll talk in generalities. Wait a minute, I don't go and do the investigations. I mean, I get them when they come to court, and I'm trying to do the best I can answering the question. About checking IDs, I guess what I'm learning very hurriedly here is if they don't agree to produce an ID, we don't have the authority to search and frisk people when we're in their homes without a search warrant to begin with. So, I mean, assuming hypothetically that that's the case, then the person declines to produce an ID, then we don't have any authority to go through their pockets. But certainly, I know that our investigators routinely ask for identification for people who are in the house. And I've worked on many cases where we've been provided that documentation. Those cases can be very difficult because if they are related, they are permitted to live together. So as you can well imagine, everybody in the household might not have the same name because that's not always a guarantee. Just because someone has a different name that they're not related. They can be difficult cases.
Okay. So, question in the I'm sorry. Question from this woman.
Yes.
Name and neighborhood, please.
Donna Smith. I don't have a neighborhood. I'm Glen.
You're in my hood.
I have a question about how many adults can live in a single-family home and still be within compliance.
This is
I
Donna's,
don't care
this
whether
is
they
Donna's
say
neighbor.
they're related or unrelated, but because they can say anything they want to. And
Well,
do.
I mean, if they're unrelated, it's 4 adults.
Okay.
And if you have a family in the house, then it's a family plus 2, unrelated.
So there's no limit.
But if they're
You
related.
can't prove they're not related, so
You
there's
can't
no
prove,
limit.
yeah, they say what they want to say.
There have been plenty of cases where we've had enough evidence to overcome claims of relationship, such as there can be signs posted, coin-operated laundries. I mean, we've tried to aggressively prosecute those where we've been able to. It can be, I'll be candid, it can be difficult where they say they're where people in the house are claiming that they're related. But having said that, if you are related, then occupancy becomes governed by the building code, which is the minimum space basically per person, and then there's minimum proportions on bedrooms. Those are state enacted laws. So to the extent that you'd want to try to look at having a modification made to those laws, it would have to be made at a state level.
But as far as code compliance is concerned, there's no firm number of adults who can live in the house. You assume if there's 13 cars outside the house, there might be a minimum of 13 adults. But there's no, if they claim that they are related, there's nothing that can be done. That's acceptable.
Well, I guess you could figure it out.
Until you get into the building code restrictions on how many, the size of a bedroom and how many people you can sleep in a bedroom and the like. Let me just add a little bit to Beth's point. And you're not giving our investigators the benefit of what they have to go through. Not all identification is telling, even when they give it to you, and we've been given false identification, okay? Our investigators, and some are better than others, okay, take great pains to try to identify, and they'll separate people. They say, ma'am, come on, can you come over here? How are you really related to this individual? And this guy over here lives in this room. What's his name? You don't know his name? He's related to you, but you don't know his name. And they'll go through, and then sometimes on multiple occupancies, we'll take two investigators out there so they can kind of split them up, and then they compare notes. We use the best investigative tools that we have, aside from the identification, to try to figure out. And we've actually started, okay, let's sit down, let's draw out your family tree here, okay? At a certain point, we said, we're going to send it over to the courts and let them ferret it out. So they're not easy, but our investigators give it the best they can to try to figure it out.
Hi, Loretta Principe from Laconia Park. Two questions. One is very brief. So the reason that Supervisor Gross was not here, she was down in Richmond as part of Fairfax County Legislative Day, and I looked at the report that was prepared to support that, and I didn't see anything about this issue. I did see something written to support more PDH, right? So were you invited to participate and provide input for the legislative day? If we're being told that we need to get a solution out of...
What are you talking about?
That's a...
Funding for the...
I can give you a real quick answer.
Okay. No, I'm talking about some of what we've been told here is that some of the solutions, some of the solution has to come from the state, from the Commonwealth legislature, right?
Our board has a legislative process that staff is involved in crafting items that our board are going to support downstate. And sometimes it's through local legislatures. And then I believe we are just finishing up the General Assembly activities right now, where there are laws going through the General Assembly right now, and the county has staff down there that are reviewing those, and we react to those almost immediately when those come up.
The legislative package has actually begun probably 6 months before the General Assembly convenes. It is a document that's discussed publicly. I would recommend, and this issue came up on some other issues, every board meeting at the end, and this is not necessarily the best way, but it is a way to get in front of the governing body and express concerns such as that or any other concern, whether it's a legislative issue or an enforcement issue or a staffing issue. That is a way, versus going to an individual board member, that you can do that. But the legislative package does go through a public process, and it is open for you to comment on if you would like to.
Okay, that's something.
Rob?
There is a little bit different process on changes to the building code, and we can provide Molly with that information.
Rob Jackson?
Yeah, I'm Rob Jackson, president of the Fairfax
County Federation of Citizens Association. We have a legislative program, and again, we get input from you to tell us what you want in that program, and you come to our meetings, your homeowners associations belong to the association, you can tell us what will be in our legislative package. But if we don't hear from you, if we don't have people, homeowners associations belong, we don't get that input. So, you know, the reason I came here tonight is I know this is very important to you folks. I want to know more about what you want us to do for you.
Can you give us your contact info?
FairfaxFederation.org.
Right. Let me ask something about the statewide building code is what we want to ask.
Yes, even if people are all related, doesn't the Virginia Maintenance Code have minimum requirements in the home for each person? And why is that not being enforced?
That's what's up there.
Even if they are related?
You mean that right up there on the screen?
Right.
Those are all the same. Yeah, that's beautiful. I have it.
Is that it?
It's amazing. No, I have, it's 50 square feet per person.
Yeah, that's up there, I'm sorry.
70 square feet for the first person in the bedroom, and then 50 square feet for each additional person in living in the bedroom.
Okay, so even if they are all related, don't you need to enforce the minimum?
You know, the building code doesn't, I hate to say this, it doesn't matter to the building code.
The maintenance code, right?
Yeah, the Department of Housing, the building code comprises three parts, part one, part two. Part one deals with new construction, part three deals with maintenance.
Right.
Well, they both are important here, okay, because you have to build a house for a certain occupancy, and then you have to maintain it then. For a bedroom, under the maintenance code, you need 70 square feet for the first individual in a bedroom. The minimum size is actually 70. And then 50 square feet for each additional person.
Correct. I understand.
So if it's overcrowded,
Are you enforcing those minimums?
Yes.
Or if people can't
Yes,
sleep in the
yes.
living room, people can't sleep in the dining
And
room,
we
but you're
find
going
that-
in and seeing that, even if they're related?
Absolutely.
so that's one way you can do
So,
overcrowded.
But we do that.
You do that.
Okay, because it doesn't look like that on Braddock Road, just saying.
Folks can get a building permit and change space into purposes of a bedroom, so as long as it's a legal bedroom, you know, this is legal and there can be a lot of people. We have a house in the Lee District where there's 22 people, adults that live there. They're all related by blood and marriage. It's a ranch-style house, but they've used building permits correctly to convert a lot of the rooms into legal bedrooms, and they're allowed to be there. So we do look at these types of cases from a zoning aspect. Are they related by blood or marriage? Are they a family? How many extra renters do they have? How many are unrelated? And if it seems to be a big number that's still related, then we go to the property maintenance code and make sure that there's spaces allotted for those homes. So that's exactly what we do.
Okay, now, let me tell you all, because it's getting close to 9:15, and I don't want to keep you here all night, but I want to make sure everybody gets to talk. But I want to just, before I let everybody talk, say that, can we have another meeting? And can we get some kind of a drive-through? Because I think at this point, we need a drive-through and some proactivity for our district. That's a proactive drive-around, yeah. Can we do something like that? Because, and we'd also like to perhaps have a task force in the district to address the major issues we're having. Maybe even include Office of Community Revitalization to appoint someone to help with the neighborhoods, because we need help. Am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, can we talk about that perhaps? And then I want to let others ask questions, but I do want to bring that up first. Because yeah, sorry.
We can talk about it. You and I have talked offline, and I've shared pretty candidly my perspectives on being, is this on?
Yeah.
On being proactive countywide, because that's ultimately the issue. We've got 10 elected officials that we work for. We don't just work for one. There is a lot of interest in code compliance countywide, so that is something I can commit to talk about it. We can commit to come back and talk as much as you want. We can commit to driving through the district. But I also want to come back with a strategy in terms of what happens next. I don't want to sit here and make a promise I can't keep. I will promise that we'll work on it with you.
What is your strategy? You want to make a strategy, I mean.
This,
In the future.
well, that's what I was referring to. I want to talk to these folks who do the work. I don't do the work, you already knew that. In terms of what we can do, what we should do, and we want to talk to you all about what we can and can't do, and come to some type of a reasonable agreement about what we will do, and how we'll do it, and when we'll do it.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to open the floor, and if anybody sneaks out, we want to thank you ahead.
Square feet. I will be in touch.
Sarah?
Were you at the Lee District meeting in 2007? I'm not being facetious. Okay, all right. Because somebody gave us a tip at that community meeting from the back of the room, and that's actually what ended up in the prosecution of several builders and financiers who were involved in about $100 million of fraudulent activity. So if it's not you,
Background on the house, when
thank you.
the previous owners bought it about 8 years ago. They put a door in the basement, no permits, no nothing. We called the county and we said, how can they go through the foundation and put a door in? They came up, they looked at it, don't know what happened. The bottom was turned into kind of like a dormitory. And now it went from how 1,300 square feet can accommodate 7 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It's a county problem. And it's an Annandale problem.
Yeah, okay, Sarah?
Well, based on the 22 people you have living in a house, and based on that we're talking about bedrooms here, I'm not sure how massive that ranch-style home was, but based on the square footage, I just can't imagine that it's legal. And this is what we're having in our counties, because we're talking about bedrooms, so unless a kitchen's a bedroom, the dining rooms are bedrooms, everything else, I don't see how having 22 adults, God knows if there's children in there too, but 22 adults, you said, living in a house, and they have to be in bedrooms, have to be set aside. How is that legal unless they're sleeping in hallways, and you consider that a bedroom, and the dining room a bedroom, and everything else? I'm not, and this is what we're all seeing, and I'm sure everyone can attest to, is that there needs to be a legal limit of how many adults.
That becomes a legislative issue that you're talking about.
Yeah, but when we're talking about what's already on the books.
Okay,
I don't know if I would call that a house or an apartment.
yeah.
It is a part, but she's saying that there's 22 people in this house, and it's a ranch-style home. It's not in 2 floors, it's a ranch-style.
Okay, I'm gonna have
I
2
just
more
wanna know
things, and
how-
we have to adjourn because of the lateness. I'm
If
sorry.
we come back, and we're happy to come back, maybe it's overcrowded now.
But we didn't get past all our issues. We still got a legal business at home.
Fair enough, fair enough. There's a lot to talk about on multiple occupancy, multiple dwelling, how we do it, what are the rules, how many we've done. We have a lot in Mason.
Why
Do-
is that? That's my
Why
big
is that?
question.
Good
Why is Mason the worst with all the?
Well, I didn't say it was the worst, but you all.
It is the worst.
It is the worst.
It's 2.5 times worse than the
Raise
rest of
your
the
hand if
county.
you think we're the worst part of it. We drive by our houses, my neighbors, every day.
You should
It's
know
not a
that.
little mystery anymore. Lived here for 15 years.
Yes, ma'am. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that.
Are your hands tied by the legislature? Are your hands tied?
No, ma'am. What I was trying to say,
I'm ready to keep going. Go ahead.
we react to the complaints you all give us, and you all are very, very active in your community, and you report them to us, and we respond to those to the best of our
Oh, did
ability.
people McLean, you're saying people McLean don't call you? That's
Ma'am, I
why-
didn't say that.
Because Penny Rose said that at the last meeting, am I correct?
You are correct.
Oh, people in McLean, they don't call. Like, we're the only ones that call. Okay, don't correct me, because she said something
No,
similar.
ma'am.
No,
That's
she
not
did
what I
say that.
implied.
Okay.
We have multiple occupancy cases all over the county.
It's not, they don't say their fault, that's enough.
Okay,
We appreciate the-
woman in the red hair, then Beth.
So Sarah Mattingly, Lake Barcroft, I'm just wondering, because we've presented a lot of problems, we've talked about some ideas of solutions. I'm wondering, as a group, the Mason District Council, if they could get together the different neighborhoods and kind of rank the problems that you have to be able to present them in a ranking order. So for
We
example,
did. We do have the ranking in this survey.
I
Okay,
guess what
go
I
ahead,
mean,
sorry.
I guess what I mean is, for example, there's I think Broy Hill I heard, and Lake Barcroft doesn't, we have a HOA, so it's a little bit different, but there's like Broy Hill and Lincoln one. if you all got together and said, listen, we wanna solve the overcrowding problem in Mason, or in Lincoln first. And then let's get, do you know what I mean? Is there some way we can narrow it down and solve these, area by area versus, well, the whole thing is, their houses everywhere?
Well, I think that's on the individual neighborhood association, because I'm tired, okay?
Fair enough.
I will let you know that we tried the neighbor to neighbor program, and we got tired and burned out, didn't we, Jackie? Nobody's doing it, we're all saying, we have the neighbor to neighbor program. But basically, the community leaders that don't have an HOA and a business model or whatever, we're exhausted. Beth?
I did a bad job of communicating.
No, that's okay,
but that isn't what I was
basically,
saying.
I hear your idea, so we could do that. We could lead it.
To be able to go to them and
I
say,
agree.
here's the
But-
first problem.
And we do want to have a program that the county works with the citizens, like Prince William. I mean, they have a task force, citizen task force, that meets once a month. But we have no contact with you guys unless we call, talk to the inspector once. You cut back your budget 35, I'm sure you did, but the board cut back your budget $35,000 for education. And also, who knows, I mean, you've got probably 20 inspecters, and most of them are
How many inspectors do you have for our district, just curious?
or all districts.
Because we need more, by the way. I'm gonna let Beth talk and then we're gonna.
We have a total of 31 investigators all across the county. 6 of them are here in Mason, and then maybe 1 or 2 from, so 6 or 7 for this group.
So you have 6 inspectors for.
That are dedicated to Mason.
Okay, so,
We could meet with the 6
folks,
inspectors.
I'm gonna let Beth say something and then I encourage you to email us if you're interested in doing some kind of a proactive thing with us on that one issue, and the many issues actually, but the overcrowding. And Beth?
Okay, and thank you all again for being here. And as we transition to our next meeting where we try to find solutions, one of the things that we didn't get to talk about tonight that I'd like you all to think about and come back to us with is why, when your inspectors go to, like, say I report 123 Elm Street, and they see something at 125 Elm Street, why they can't do anything about that, why I have to document all 15 houses and take the time. Like Molly said, we're exhausted, we need help. There are like 5 active people in each community, and we're burnt out, and we're ready to pack up and move.
Yeah, people are moving.
We are ready to pack up and move before we watch all the investment in our house go away and be flushed down the toilet. So we need help, and that's one of the solutions is if you could address if that's a possibility for your inspectors to.
Yeah, that was one of the top questions, the proactive. Let me
We'd be
ask.
happy to come back and talk about that next time. I realize you
Oh yeah, the proactive, we did mention it. Okay, I'm gonna let Kay say something, because she's on the revitalization committee.
Along the lines of what Beth was saying, I'm
Yeah.
Kay Cooper, I live in Lake Farncroft and have for 30 years, and I've been in Mason District for 40 years, and I've watched with real dismay the decline in this area. I think the main thing that I keep hearing from code compliance is we're complaint driven, and this isn't working. You can't solve this problem by just having all of us make complaints. There needs to be a recognition of the nuclear nature of the decline that's going on. It's not just 1 or 2 streets or 1 or 2 houses, and the fact that for many reasons, maybe the laws need to be changed, maybe the budgets need to be picked up, but if we were enforcing the codes properly, particularly the overcrowding code, because the overcrowding has led to the parking violations and the trash and the litter and everything else. So if that had been addressed in a way, and I realize people have civil liberties, I'm not a vigilante, I'm not proposing that, but there has to be a way to find out when there are slumlords at Culmore. We all know that. Everybody knows that. There has to be a way legally for us to address that. And I realize you can't do it alone. You've got to have the support of the Board of Supervisors, the state legislature, the police department.
but it has to be a joint effort. When someone pointed out that they call code compliance and then the truck moves and then it's police, there needs to be cooperation. And there has to be a sense, and we are not getting the sense that this is high priority and that you realize it and something's got to be done. But
Let's end on that note. Thank you. Thank you all the panel for coming and hearing us, and we'll be in touch. And I think most everybody's on our email list. If you're not, please go to masondistrict.org and get on our email list, and we'll continue the conversation. Thanks.